Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Love and Light Show, where your special guest is Rachel, and we're talking about how to seize your passion. And she has a 5-point framework all about self, mindset, action, overcome, and success that we're going to go through with you guys today. And she's also going to share a lot of resources that are available on her online site, ciopa.com, for us to have more like support in our life and content that will help us have a high vibe life. So I'm so excited for you to be on today. Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hi, Laura. So great to be here. I'm
Thank
excited.
you
I
so
have
much.
shared. I took a little break recently, so this is like my first really deep dive back into things, and I'm excited to get it all out.
That's awesome. And you guys are on the Love and Light Show, where every Wednesday and Friday at 1 Atlantic, 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific, we bring you different light workers and coaches and healers and heart-centered entrepreneurs so you guys can have different tips and tricks and tools and resources and modalities that can support you on your healing journey, so we can all be the best version of ourselves, first and foremost for ourselves, and that we can all be the change that we want to see in the world for our environment and friends and family and the world around us. And I'm Ellner
Love
a
that.
joyful goddess. Yay! I'm a super healer and coach, and I love empowering women through self-love and self-care and through limiting beliefs and clearing the things that don't serve us anymore, so we can have our dream lives now and not someday in the future, and not believe the old stories in our heads that tell us that we're not good enough or pretty enough or smart enough or whatever, fill in the blank enough in our life, that we can clear those away so we can show up and love our lives right now. And one of the ways that I'm really excited to be doing this week is a Blissful Blowjobs workshop. And this got inspired by a TEDx talk that I was watching. And they were doing all this research with teens and young girls, and then later in their life, that women are getting trauma from a very young age around all sexual experiences, and that for young boys, a sexual experience was positive and good and successful if he came, and a positive sexual experience for a woman starting at her very first time was just not pain, not discomfort, and maybe I satisfied the guy. Nothing about her satisfaction was coming up at all. And it was becoming a habit that women and young girls were talking amongst themselves, that if they were in a situation with a guy and it wasn't a great date, but you didn't want to like piss them off, that they would just have to do blowjobs, and they'd hate it, but they had to do it. And I'm like, this is so stupid. This is ridiculous. I hate that the world is in this kind of place and that there's so much trauma around our sexuality from such a young age. So I shared my personal experience a couple weeks ago on a Facebook post, and like it got like 100+ likes and everyone was loving it. And I got so many like private messages from women because I shared that I went from hating it and feeling like I had to do it to please the partner that I was with and all the societal cultural expectations of what women should be doing, to getting my own orgasms from giving blowjobs and from deeply connecting with my own body and doing that healing work. So I created a workshop because you guys asked for it, because you guys had so many questions and I couldn't send enough like voice messages to all the women who were asking. So I have that workshop, and I'll be sure to put that in the comments below so you guys can have that as an option, as an awesome arsenal tool within your own sexual experience to be able to deeply connect with your pleasure when you want to. And I'm so excited for today's episode. Rachel is the creator and founder of ciopa.com and Seize Your Passion. So I'm so excited to share this with all of the people watching and how they can be more passionate and awesome in their life. So thank you so much for joining us today. And do you want to share a little bit about your story with us?
Sure. I just have to comment on that segue because when I first was conceiving of the name for this vision I had and this movement and what's become this meta theory, which I'll get into, and I chose Seize Your Passion, and the umbrella company is actually Passion Network Entertainment. I can't tell you how many times I had to explain to people when I first said the name, this is not a porn site. This is not a porn. So I love that actually we're not talking about sexuality when it comes to seizing your passion, although that was a perfect segue because we could easily go there too.
Very true.
Say that. I still often say that when you know people ask me, seize your passion, Passion Network Entertainment, is that like, I'm like, no, it's not a porn company, it's not a porn site. But
yeah, because passion is very general for that world. Just like I've said, bliss for a lot of things where orgasm can kind of flag people and stuff. And I totally get it. Like, it's good to keep the internet safe and secure for younger audiences and from porn and stuff like that. But Also, there's very positive sex education out there. That
100%. And by the way, that common denominator of that elevated state of bliss and climaxing and passion, you know, there's different ways to get to that. And my frame is one way, and you know, it's more on the spiritual side and the inner work side and the actual practical life, going out and realizing your dream side. But certainly there's a way to get there through your sexuality as well. So
yes. Sounds good. So how did Siopa,
sorry, go ahead.
So how did Siopa come into being, that idea? And you can totally go with your train of thought as well.
Okay, so I started out as a professional actress. From the age of 5 to 18, I was a professional actress both in the United States and in Israel. I was born and raised in Israel, but I lived in the States during my childhood from the age of 5 to 13, and then I went back to Israel for high school and the Army. So I worked professionally in theater, off-Broadway, a lot of after-school specials, and then TV movies and feature films, both in the States and in Israel. And so that was my passion. Really from a very young age. And I was lucky enough during that stage of my life that it kind of just appeared before me. I didn't have to do a lot of soul searching to discover what my passion was. I am so sorry. It really was the foundation for everything I'm doing today. As often I've been on the journey of discovering. I'm so sorry if you hear that.
No worries. You're the popular lady.
I put it on silent, but I guess that's not enough. I'm shutting it off. Sorry.
No worries.
And then I sort of fell in love with being behind the camera when I was in the film production unit of the Israeli Air Force when I served in the Army there. And so instead of coming back to the States for Yale drama, which was the best for acting, I decided to go to NYU film because I fell in love with, again, the whole storytelling process. And even when I was an actress, I always was fascinated by the whole production and collaborative work and what the story was conveying and the messages behind it. And what I later discovered, starting to conceive of Siopa, and I'm segueing into the answering your question, was that what really was my passion and still is, and it's that common thread, you know, there's a famous quote, of course, by Steve Jobs, you can't connect the dots looking forwards, but only looking backwards. And now I can connect those dots looking backward. That common thread throughout was my passion for and my curiosity for and my sort of elevation. My soul felt elevated and fulfilled whenever I was exploring or dealing with or thinking about or learning about really human psychology, human behavior, existentialism, philosophy, meaning and fulfillment in life. You know, the quintessential human condition is, why are we here? What is our purpose in this world? Do we matter? You know, what personal legend are we here to fulfill? To take sort of a paraphrase from my favorite book, The Alchemist, which is all about that. Passion, essentially. I think that's what that book is about. So that's part of why now looking back, I understand that I fell in love with being behind the camera and the whole process and the storytelling, because it never really was specifically about the acting part of it, although there are certain aspects of that I enjoyed for sure. It was really about discovering, learning about myself through the characters that I was playing, learning about myself through the stories I was either producing or creating or watching, right? Watching movies today or any really form of storytelling in any medium. Besides it being good entertainment, it's really enlightenment when it's, you know, when it's dealing with certain issues and well done, right? It's a way for us to discover ourselves, to learn about ourselves, to gain that self-awareness, self-reflection, and that is a tool to answering that bigger quintessential question of why are we here? What is our purpose? Fulfilling our own personal legend. So, long story short, I then ended up going to law school. I became an entertainment attorney. I got, yes, but you know, like many of us, I think that period of my life, and again, hindsight is 2020. I wasn't aware of it at the time. But I was very much trying to conform to societal expectations, to what I thought was my own definition of success, but really was put on me by culture and the society, family, friends, and we all experience this. And I think anyone that's, you know, in your audience understands what I'm talking about.
Definitely. I'm from corporate.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I found myself at a point in my life where I wasn't fulfilled, and I was, for the first time in my life, I was questioning, why am I doing this? What am I, is this what I really want? Is this really who I am? Is this really the personal legend I'm supposed to fulfill? Again, it wasn't in those terms at the time because I wasn't in that awareness, but that's really what I was going through. And my soul was speaking to me, and I listened to the degree that I could, that I had the knowledge base to listen. And in between, I moved back from Israel to New York, and then from New York to Florida, where I'm based now. And I got to a point where an opportunity had me take part in a reality TV show. And that was kind of the first spark of figuring out, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And this is how I'm supposed to take all those dots and all those experiences and all those things that make me, and all those curiosity points and interest points and places where I felt the most alive. And I felt, yes, this feels right. This is me living my truth. Again, the terms I'm speaking in today, I didn't define it in those terms then, but that's what it was. And I conceived of just going out there and making it happen, of building a platform. At the time, in the early conceptions, it was a multi-channel network of a way to inspire people and to empower people to connect with their passions and what they love to do, and to inspire them to go out and realize their dreams and become their best self. And then over the course of the last 3 years, it sort of developed into this whole meta theory and methodology and framework for living your life to the fullest.
Yes.
You know, which is what we're all after. There's not one person on this earth that is born and wakes up and says, yeah, no, I don't want my life to be that great. You know, I don't care, or I want it to get worse. We all want to live our best lives.
Yes.
We all want to live it to the fullest, with meaning, with purpose, with passion, with fulfillment. And so it sort of evolved again into this meta theory, which a meta theory is sort of an integration and a synthesis of various methodologies and philosophies and theories into one, which is this 5-point framework that we're going to talk about. And those different theories and meta theories and methodologies that composes CEOPA and Seize Your Passion, those are the common threads that I was talking about. So they come from personal development theories, they come from self-actualization theories, they come from psychology, behavioral psychology theories, they come from philosophy theories. So it's really, and it's so cool when you get to a point and you can look back and connect the dots and you say, oh, wow, like that's where that fit in, and that's why I did that. Even what we think are our biggest failures or mistakes, or where we feel like we were the most off path, nothing is off path. Nothing. All the dots connect. They really do. If you tune in and you start to become aware of it, and you start to listen, you start to pay attention, and you want to connect those dots. It does. So that's kind of a long way and roundabout way of telling you how it all started.
I love it. And it's so true. Like, I can look back at so many parts of my own life where it's like, if that one piece wasn't there, I wouldn't have the tools and characteristics and values and skill sets that I have today that serve me in such a deep, big way. So it's so positive that I feel like everyone should take that time to reflect and be like, I'm really grateful. Even if you, quote, called it a failure in the past, it could have been one of your biggest and deepest learning lessons. That is exactly why you're here, and to serve and support other people, which I love it. And Tanya's been commenting and joining us. She said, first, hi, gorgeous ladies. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And she's like, yes, live your best life. And woohoo, all kinds of awesome energy. And Joanne's like, yes, best life. I love it. All kinds of high vibe energy. So let's get into the framework. The first piece is self. How can they start to
Okay.
embody that?
Okay, so because we live in a linear world and our brains are sort of trained to think linearly and compartmentalize and organize and categorize. And by the way, I am the biggest victim of this, so to speak. I love organization and structure, and I like things. Okay, what category does this fall in? So the 5-point framework, and you say, let's start with self. It is there so that our brains can understand it in that linear way, because it's important.
Right.
But before I even go into that, I really, it's important to emphasize, like everything in life and like our journey, which is exactly what we were just talking about, right? When you go back and connect the dots, and everything is interconnected. So too is this 5-point framework. And it's not so much a linear starting point and end point. It's really a cyclical cycle where there are 5 points in the framework, and each point, self, mindset, action, overcome, success, they're all interconnected and interrelated, and they all kind of feed into the other and build upon another and back again, right? You'll see when I get to the last one, which again, for purposes of just expressing it in a linear fashion, because you have to start somewhere, I start with and I end with success, but really success is fed by self, and self is fed by success. So it's really this, I'm in this small box. I talk with my hands.
We are in small boxes.
It's really, I really want people to keep in mind that it's, while, again, for purposes of articulating it and expressing it so people can understand, we'll go through the 5 points in a linear way, but it's really a cyclical cycle where each dot is connected to the other and feeds upon the other, and it's an upward spiral, like everything else in life, and like our own journey of self-actualization and personal growth. That's how it works, So
I feel like that's so important for people to like fully realize, instead of like entrepreneurship or a new relationship or anything. They're just like, oh, it starts and it should just go up. Nothing in life does that. Our earth doesn't do that. We all have seasons, or we all have cycles, and it's so important to emphasize that cycle. So I love that you have that.
Yes. Okay. But again, for purposes of expressing it and articulating it in a way that people can understand, I'm going to start with self. And by the way, it's not coincidental that I didn't just randomly pick self as the starting point when I do speak about it in linear fashion, because self really is the foundation for everything, right? It all starts with you. Literally everything. There are so many cliches and sort of these sayings that we all have heard, and we even say them, and we say we believe them, but knowing them, understanding them, saying them is very different from actually digging deep and truly, truly understanding what they mean, and then living out of them, you know? And that's another piece of actually the cyclical framework that starts with self, is each point has so much depth to it, right? So you can, even in the cycles of life and in relationships and everything you just pointed out that works in that cyclical fashion, you can do the work on a surface level, and that's great. That's a starting point for many of us, for most of us. But the reason it goes back and it's cyclical, and right, it's not just, okay, you do one circle and you're done. You keep going up and up and up and down and up and down, is because each time you go through that new layer of whatever point on the circle you are, let's say self, you can always go deeper. Deeper and deeper. And that's why it's like this never-ending depth and rise of self-evolving and self-actualization and personal growth. So there's so much depth, and there's so many specific points in the category or the point of self. And going back to those cliches, right? You can't love another person until you truly love yourself. How many times have we heard, how many of us really believe that, but how many of us actually do that, actually understand what it means to truly love ourselves? You know? And I think that's, if anything, the most what your show is about, right? Is empowering and inspiring women and people to learn how to love themselves truly and deeply and meaningfully, and not just on that surface level. So
unconditional love.
Yes, and what does that mean, right? It's and there's a lot of definitions here that you have to decide for yourself. What does that mean to me? What does it mean to me, right? And you'll see we'll come full circle when we talk about success, right? And it's based on the self, because it's how do you define success for yourself based on your work in self, right? So the work in self is, first of all, awareness, right? Self-awareness, because from awareness comes understanding, from understanding comes your understanding of your freedom to choose. Everything is a choice. Every thought, every action we take, every response we have is a choice.
Yes.
So awareness, then understanding, then choice, and then action based on your choice, right? And all that sequence is based on your understanding of yourself, your values, what you believe in, why you believe in them. You know, and there's so much. I would say the most common thread, and again, I could go so deep and I could just talk for an hour on just the category itself, but I want to make sure we have enough time to move through all of them. So the most, I think, prevalent epiphanies and realizations and breakthroughs that people have when working on self is, and this is just as true for me as anyone else, this has been my biggest breakthrough and epiphany and realization, is even those of us who consider ourselves very self-aware and emotionally intelligent and self-reflective, it's amazing how unaware we are of how much we live our lives for others and not our own truth. Most people do not live their truth authentically. I always talk about this. There's a famous book done about the 5 top regrets of the dying. And that was the number one regret. And it is the number one, again, epiphany and realization that anyone who's on a journey of personal growth and self-actualization will come to is, am I living my truth? What are my values? You know, am I doing this for other people's approval? Am I doing this because I was taught that this is what success looks like? Am I doing this because I believe I have to earn my love and my worth? And what you discover at the end, or not at the end because there is no end, but what you start to manifest and live out of is truly loving yourself, meaning trusting yourself, even though you may have betrayed yourself in the past, listening to your intuition and your inner voice, which again, we've all heard. There's no new sort of radical, original idea, right? Everyone is just putting the different pieces of the puzzle together in a certain way that sparks something in you, you know, and it's really the most empowering and amazing journey you can go on, is that first point of self. And it really comes down to love, you know, and manifestations of love, unconditional love, forgiving yourself, understanding that you are worthy, just you are enough, right? All the things we always talk about, but it's delving deep into it from so many different aspects and points until you come out and you're ready to go to the next point on the cyclical framework, right? Taking all that, what your values are, what makes you come alive, right? And there's a lot of this that is very practical also, because a big part of Siopa and Seize Your Passion is, practically speaking, what is your passion in life? What dreams do you realize? You know, so, and practically speaking, you in the real world, right? So there's a lot of inner work, but also outer work too, and it's integrated too. So it's taking all the values, those beliefs, those self-awareness, self-understanding, self-love, self-trust, self-reflection, and applying it to, okay, what is my gift? What is my unique ability? What is my personal legend? What is it that brings me alive, that I feel the most, that is really feels like I'm living my truth? And then how do I go about to accomplish that, right? So the next point is mindset. And we all know, there's nothing here that I'm going to say that I'm sure you haven't heard before. It's just putting it all together and digging deep and seeing how everything interconnects and starting to experience that upward cyclical spiral and cycle. So mindset is all about psychology and abundance mindset, and believing in yourself, which again is connected to and is built upon your understanding of self, right? You can't truly believe in yourself unless you truly understand yourself and you know what you want and why you want it, so yeah, you can't.
Conviction.
Yes, and it's not just, oh, I believe, I want to believe, I believe. I know that affirmations are great, but again, I think there's so many great theories and philosophies and methodologies and tools out there, but like anything in life, if you take anything and keep it on a sort of surface level, it just doesn't really get there.
Yeah, it won't transform your life if you're on surface.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is the first step. Again, it is the first step, and it's great. But there's a difference between saying, I believe in myself, I believe in my dreams, versus actually just knowing it, just feeling it. I mean, and it's very hard to express in words and articulate because it is such a deep feeling and experience that only if you feel it will you understand what I'm really talking about. And there's always ways to tap into that and think back on experiences that you've had in your life where you have felt that. And that's part of the deep work in all of these different points on the framework. But, the mindset of, determination and persistence and grit, and really the foundation of an abundance mindset and understanding that nothing is permanent, everything is temporary, everything is our choice, and we really can create whatever we want.
Yes.
So that's sort of the next point. Another big one that's within the mindset sort of category is, and this was a big lesson for me, is unattachment, right? And equanimity, which, I believe in having big dreams. I believe in seeing where you want to go and having that vision and understanding what that is and why it is and making sure that that is in fact your truth and no one else's.
Yeah.
What I had to learn is that once you have that, you let go. You let go of that outcome and you're not doing it to achieve that outcome. And it's, again, this is one of those theories it's very hard to articulate words because it's words are cerebral, whereas feelings and experiences we just feel it in our souls and our spirits, and it just implements, incorporates all of us. Yes. But that's the difference of, not getting trapped by that corporate ladder that we were talking about, or that corporate world, or those societal norms, right? And that definition of success that's based on others and not ourselves. Because when you're attached to a certain very specific outcome, you're forgetting about why you're doing it and the whole journey, and it really comes down to, it's not about the destination, it's the journey. Now, it is about the destination because you have that vision, right? You have to have a North Star, or else you're just living your life. And you wouldn't be here if you thought that that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? So it's having that vision, but then being unattached to it and allowing things to evolve in truth.
And letting go of the hows along the way. I feel like that's a big piece where people are like, I don't want to go forward because I don't know how I'm going to get to that like destination or North Star or like million-mile away thing for me. And it's like, you can just show up and move how your like knowingness is guiding you and not really focus on the one project that you're working on right now. Like that doesn't have to go the way that your human mind expected it to go, because a lesson or a failure or something from that could propel you to that next piece. And that's the piece that you need to keep going.
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because it brings in another piece of it that's so important. So I think it's true what you're saying, but it's also true that, yes, you do have to focus on the house sometimes, and you do have to have a strategy and a plan, because again, we do live in the real world. And if you want to attain a certain end vision in this real world, right, that's very tangible and practical and real. I don't think just saying, okay, I'm going to just not worry about how I'm going to get there and just trust that the universe, there's so much, but it's both. It's both. And it's always both. and this is the reason I'm happy you brought it up is because there's three sort of main pillars that go throughout the whole 5-point framework and the whole philosophy of Seize Your Passion. And I can point each of the three pillars out in each of the 5 frameworks. So these 3 pillars exist in self, in mindset, in action, in overcome, in success, because they exist everywhere, just like the 5-point framework and the cycle exists everywhere. So, and those 3 pillars are, first of all, love, right? This sort of elevated state and foundational piece of love, and passion is love, right? Love, enthusiasm, the work on self-love, and the basic, if I had to say what SIOPA and Seize Your Passion is about in the most basic terms, and I say it all the time, it's about doing more of what you love and being more of who you love. That's what it's about. In the simplest of terms. And the framework is just how to get there and what that really means. What does it mean to be more of who you love? What does it mean to do more of what you love? And there's so many different ways to get to it. So love is overriding, and everything starts with love, and everything starts with you, right? Love is the foundation of everything, and everything starts with you. So love is always. The second piece, and this is connected to what we were just talking about, is the duality and polarity in everything in this universe, including in ourselves and in you, right? I just wrote an email. There is duality and polarity, contradictory duality and polarity in everything, right? In love even, right? Yes. Love doesn't exist without hate. It's the other end of the spectrum, right? People say all the time, well, love and hate are very close, because it's true. Light wouldn't exist without the darkness. Right. It's always both. There's actually an expression that I thought someone else created, but I actually think that my sister created it. I love it so much. It's, you have to master the 2 to conquer the 3rd. So what that means is master the 2, meaning the balance of, yes, trust and don't focus on the how and the planning, and know that if you're listening to your intuition and you're living your truth, it will manifest itself in a sort of naturally organic way, but not exclusively, but also you're in the real world. So
not by sitting on the couch being like, it's just going to happen. It's the inspired action pieces from your knowing.
Always both. And, just like, so many of our biggest, and you started off by saying this in the beginning of the conversation, some of our biggest lessons and growth comes from our biggest failures and mistakes and hard times. There's a reason for that. That's the law of polarity. The lightness comes out of the darkness. It wouldn't be light if there wasn't the dark. So it's always kind of, so I never say, well, don't focus on the how, because again, and this whole framework, like I said in the beginning, it's very much about inner work, but it's also very practical, real life, going out there and realizing your dreams, achieving your goals in the real world. And that takes strategy and planning and thinking about the how also, not exclusively, and not exclusively doing the other either. It's always the balance of the law of duality. And again, there's duality and polarity in everything. So that just to answer your question, and then just to round it out, because I was talking about the 3 pillars, the 3rd pillar that goes throughout as well is meaning, right? Because at the end of the day, there's an art and a science to living your life to the fullest, to realizing your dreams, to becoming your best self, to living your life with that purpose, passion, meaning, and fulfillment, right?
Yes.
And so much of that comes from meaning. And what does it mean to you? Why does it matter to you? And again, the work we do with self, understanding your values, your beliefs, living your truth, it basically comes down to, why does that mean something to you? And does it mean something to you? That's, I'm a huge fan of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And that's why it's one of those foundational pillars: love, balance, and meaning. And again, there's so much depth we could go into there, but that was a roundabout way of answering your question about
Beautiful.
It's not, you don't have to focus on the how at all. You know, it's both. It's always both.
Totally agree.
And then I'm looking at the time. Ooh, we're so over. Okay,
it's totally fine. We have space.
there's just so much, and I could talk and talk and talk about this, and I love it. I hope people are enjoying listening to me talk about this.
Yes, we still have people live. They're enjoying it. We're getting little loves and hearts.
Okay, good. So there's self mindset, and then comes action, right? Again, actually taking the steps, you know, and these are goals and habits and all the very practical stuff, and learning how to embrace play and adventure and risk taking and planning and one step at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. All the very practical, tangible action steps, but they're based on the self and the mindset so that you're taking the right action steps towards that end goal, which you're not attached to, in order to reach the next destination, which is overcoming the obstacles and the challenges that will inevitably come your way, right? And learning to become resilient and a true warrior. And that comes again from the work that you did on self, and really feeling that self-love and self-trust, and it all builds upon the other to overcome all those obstacles. Until you get to that end point, which there is no end point, but
of that cycle, the success.
Yeah, and really success comes down to the work you did on self, because how do you define success? What does success look like for you? What is the meaning of success for you? And how does it tie into that whole cycle? And all those points will evolve and change, and you know, that's the beauty of it, I think, is that it's never ending. It's this constant cycle of just growth and learning. And that doesn't mean that it's all bliss and fun and easy. It's not. There's some really hard points, you know, those down points in the cycle, in order to come back up. It's just part of the process. But ultimately, the global picture is one step closer, for sure, to really living your best life, really seizing your passion, you know, creating that and living your truth and realizing your dreams and truly becoming your best self. And it's not become your best self and then you're there. It's becoming your best self, because you're constantly becoming your best self. It's yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because we're all masterpieces while being work in progresses at the exact same time.
Yes, I wrote a blog on that got like so many hits.
I love that.
That's exactly the title of it. You can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time, and that's what we all are.
Yes,
100%.
Love that. So, how can people connect with you and Siopa after the show? What's Siopa.com have for them if they go there?
Okay, so Siopa.com. By the way, Siopa is an acronym for the first two letters of Seize Your Passion.
Yeah.
So new YOLO. Don't say YOLO, say Siopa.
Yay!
EYOPA.com. And there's a ton of content on there, both curated and original. Mostly articles and videos, and resources of other platforms where you can find more articles and videos, really all about personal growth, self-actualization, becoming your best self, realizing your dreams, you know, and it's all meant to inspire and empower people. I kind of steer away from the word motivation or motivate, but a lot of it is very motivational. And sometimes I just feel like motivation is more on the surface level and inspiration is more on the level, you know. But, sort of this, how I like to define inspiration is it's intention plus implementation. So, you know, whereas motivation is kind of just, I don't know, it's more on a surface level, but yeah, there's tons of content there. If you know, subscribe, it's all free. If you subscribe, I send out a weekly email every week with my thoughts for the week, my inspiration for the week with
Love
some
it.
new content, some recycled content. Yeah.
Wonderful. And you guys definitely go check out Siopa and come back to the comments and let us know what you're like loving the most out of it. I loved in particularly when you had that shop. Like I'm like always about high vibe clothes where I'm like, oh my gosh. So I loved all the content and I was like, oh, I need some of this in my life.
Yeah. So there is a shop where you could buy all kinds of shirts and hats and stuff like that. And again, it's kind of like poking fun at my own self because the real work of seizing your passion is very deep work. But again, we live in the real world and we have to start somewhere. And sometimes the surface level stuff actually does motivate us and it does help.
Yeah.
And it is. And sometimes I find that if I just put on my Seize Your Passion t-shirt or Passion Warrior t-shirt or whatever, dream, believe, achieve, just putting it on and like wearing it, something as simple and surface level as like the shirt I'm wearing with the message, it's a great reminder. And it is a great way to just like, yes, I'm a passion warrior today. And thank you for that. That's a way to incorporate it again on all levels. Yeah. And I will also say that I'm putting together, and this is like I'm releasing this news for the first time here. So I'm putting together an actual video course that really delves deep into this whole meta theory and this whole 5-point framework for seizing your passion and realizing your dreams. So we'll figure out a way maybe to get some sort of special promotion going for your audience. Anyone that's heard about it here and is interested, we can figure that out.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yeah, keep in touch, guys. We're going to like support you with this awesome in-depth video series so you guys can get more passion in your life because we all need it. Like to be so excited in your life and lit up and grateful and feeling blessed is what we're all meant for. We're not meant for misery and like 9 to 5 and just like hating your work week and just like only living for your weekend. We're here for so much more. So I love that you're creating that series and thank you so much for that offer. That sounds amazing. And thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and the work that you're doing and lighting up the world in your ways. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening and thank you for inviting me to share. I love
You're
talking.
welcome. Such my pleasure. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Feel free to continue to comment after the show as well. You can hashtag replay when you're catching it later, and feel free to share it out with a friend in your life who needs more passion, who needs this energy and this framework in their life so that they can move forward to that better and better and better version of themselves as they continue to grow and evolve on their unique journey. So I'm sending you guys all so much love and hope that you have a wonderful week.
Yay.